Hey chat, how we doing today? I am just getting set up on the motorcycle helmet. I'm just doing a couple small tweaks to see if I can get the shape to work a little bit better, because I opened up the file and I was just thinking, geez, this thing looks a little bit lumpy. Maybe a little bit of work would be preferred on this. But I will just quickly finish setting up. Now I do have the references on the other screen. Biblical words. As I said, I would prefer if you didn't bring religion onto my stream. I have the same rule for politics as well. Because I know there's quite a few people on my who visit my streams who do not have the best experience with religion, including myself. So, if you can't respect my wishes, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Alright, so, here we go. Now, yeah, the structure is looking a bit lumpy. I'm going to give these a couple of relaxes with the loop tools to see if I can get the shape to work slightly better. Which I think it does, if I just give it a little bit more work. And I think the side is fine. It's just the front bit here that needs just a little bit more. I'll bring this one here. Just pull that back. And that one as well. Move that back there and start moving these around. And yep. Okay, cool. It should be fine. I think, yeah, the overall profile looks a lot smoother having relaxed there. I think maybe what had happened was some of these were just a little bit out of kilter with the rest of the geometry, and that's just what's causing the lumpiness. Alright, that's a timeout. It's a 10-minute timeout, and if you continue, you will just be straight up banned from the stream. I think maybe... Just looking at the back here. I think... Because that is supposed to be more pinched in. I wonder if I drag these ones down. Because the only other option at that point is to just take the entire, like this section here, and try to make a extra cut splitting off of one of these. And I'm going to be honest, that does not sound like a good way to keep good geometry, so... Grab that from there to probably about there, and scale that in. And get rid of that one. I'm going to really pull this up. In fact, I'll grab this one as well. Yes. Okay, yeah, that looks a bit nicer. And I managed to keep the shape up here too. What I probably want to do is... I want to relax this and then move it down. Probably. Now, the back section looks fine. I just want to pull this front a bit more, though, to make up for the fact that I've had to move everything around. That should be good. And this one here. It's a shame that I can't easily space these, but it happens. Okay, that looks fairly decent, I think. Put that up. You know, if I had a nickel for every time that I've had somebody from the Christianity section pester me on stream, I'd have 2 nickels, which is not a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice. Alright, now I need to readjust the visor to make up for the fact that I have edited the entire lot here. I think proportional editing is the way to go about this. Probably make it a bit smaller though. So that should... Yeah, okay. So I think the real problem section is this here. If I move that back, that should just about work. The problem is I just don't want it clipping into the helmet, you know? Alright, that should be good. Front of the helmet looks fine. The side profile is no longer lumpy, and the back could do with a slight edit, maybe? Because I'm just looking at this here, and I'm just thinking that maybe it needs to be pulled in slightly. Although, looking from the top... Okay, yeah, it could just stand to be moved just slightly. Alright, cool. Now, for the part that everyone's been anticipating, ears. Certainly got ears to work with, that's for sure. So I'm not sure how I'm going to logic cat ears onto this helmet, especially in an aerodynamic way, but I mean, that's the mission, and by God, I'm going to try as hard as I can to get it to work. So, from the looks of it, the ears start just before the visor ends. So that would be roughly around the halfway mark. So, I can hide the ref for the moment and just set this to object mode. I'm going to set the color to random just so I can see slightly better. Alright, time to grab out the old drawing tablet. I don't know how and why I keep forgetting to turn this thing on before stream, but every time I need to use it, it is off. Okay, put away my... Not my Minecraft wallet though, that can stay on my desk. I don't know where I'm going to put that. Just chuck it up here and hope it doesn't break everything. Alright, now. Actually, the wallet does get in the way. I'll chuck it probably in here, actually. Provided Steve doesn't want to break all my stuff. Man, it's when I'm AFK that they appear. Yeah, like, for real. Like, you missed the fun. But I've just readjusted the helmet design so it looks slightly less lumpy. Do you think it tracks with what a motorcycle helmet should look like? Since you're more of the expert here than I am. Ooh, what happened there, actually? I'm gonna need to fix that in just a moment. But bring back my notes. Is the notes... Okay, yeah. The notes are so much larger than the helmet itself. That's funny. So, from the looks of this here, and fun little thing you can do with this, you can actually set this to be on top, I believe. Where is canvas? No, always on top. Okay. So, the ears seem to start where the visor ends. So, looking at it from here, the ears seem to start roughly around here. So it does seem to be on the halfway point of the helmet. And the ears here seem to be... That's a motorcycle helmet, alright. Well, I'm glad I managed to do it some justice. And it looks like the ears are, I want to say, a third to a half of the height of the helmet. Just cross-referencing it with there, that looks to be about half. So, probably about half of the helmet there is just going to be ears. So, probably, I want to say roughly that tall, which is a pretty egregious amount for ears. But it does seem to track with the general helmet design. Now, the real question is, how am I going to go about designing this in an aerodynamic fashion? I mean, as I said, I have a couple ideas that I could try, so I'm going to make the ears be a separate piece to the rest of the helmet. And once I get a couple designs down, I can then just attach it with merging vertices. So it's not a huge issue. Now, for the front, it seems that the ears come from the side of the helmet, obviously, and leave, it's about a third of the helmet, width-wise. So, if that's the height there, then the ears would probably come up to be around about here, I want to say. And then there's a obvious gap in between. My drawing is god-awful. This is why I do 3D and not 2D sketching. Unfortunately, 2D and 3D artistry is not always inclusive of each other. I'm driving right now, so I may miss some of this. That's fine. Just make sure you get home safe, yeah? I don't want you crashing and burning because you decide to watch me instead of paying attention to the road. So, yeah, that'd be roughly around about the sizing of the ears. Okay, I can probably work with that. I'd need to account for curvature of the helmet. Here. And here. So I need to account for the curves there. I've already think I've designed the curves for this one. I have not. So that's probably roughly around about where the ears should be. In fact, I can probably even drag this back slightly further. And just draw that. So yeah, that seems roughly correct to what the model here is requesting of me. That should be fine. Alright, cool. So this should be... Girl, you should wear a name tag because I don't know... Oh, Foxy, not this shit. No, I am not Charles. I am not indulging you on that name tag bullshit. Okay? I mean, how are you doing? But I am not And I repeat, I am never going to indulge in that name tag thing. That was an awful goddamn song. I'm sorry, of all the songs that the fandom got fixated on, it had to be that one? Like, that was just the unofficial, like, Seedang shitpost, really. Was, bringing that song up in any context. Alright, so... block modeling this should be fairly easy. Scale that down. Control 2. And then I can probably just start editing from here. I'm gonna say probably one cut on each side for a start, and auto mirroring is not going to work in this case. So I do need to be a little bit more mindful of how I go about modeling this. Although I can mirror based around the helmet. Just make my life easier. I went through old DMs, it was brought up. Oh yeah, the ones with Bluer, right? Whatever happened to that, what was it? It was like a 2.5, if not 3-minute video of him just freestyle rapping to that song. And I think that did a pretty considerable amount on my mental health, just being there to witness that. I have it? Oh god, no, don't remind me, please. I beg of you. For once in my life, Foxy, I have done nothing to warrant that, so please do not inflict that on me. For once, I am innocent. Okay, so now we've got that. And then this general section here needs to be pulled back quite a fair bit. Alright, so I'm definitely going to need to edit the shape of this in general, because this is far messier than I would have liked. That is not the... Why is this one even selected? Go away. In fact, I'll just edge slide this one. Now this one probably could do with being brought forward a little bit. I'm actually using I think it's AliExpress, if not eBay, image here to just give me a more generalized idea of how this shape is going to work. Also, apparently, in terms of keeping something always on top, apparently PureRef takes precedence over OBS, which is interesting. Now, the shape here actually does shrink downwards already at that point, so... Although, to be fair, I did sketch that out. I just wasn't confident in my own ability to do that. This one here. I think the design's supposed to be that the ears are like triangled or squared off. Because I'm looking at this, and the ears are rounded on this one, and the ears are just straight on this original image here. So I can't exactly just make them curved. It doesn't fit the aesthetic choices for this character. Oh, Foxy, you missed the Like, I had another one of those religious ones show up in YouTube side. You missed the fun on that. Okay, actually, I could probably just even scale these two in, which would get me a lot closer to... Yeah, that's probably a lot better. Okay, I'll scale this in the Z just to make sure that the sizing is accurate. Now, time to fix the profiling on this, because the profiling on this is going to be an absolute annoyance, I can already tell. But it will be worth it if I can get this correct. So that's that. I really need to bring that down. In fact, this middle one here needs to be moved upwards. And I think that's okay. I would prefer this to be a little bit more well suited though. So I might have to manually move this one manipulated inwards. Actually, this one here could probably do a bit of movement as well. The only issue, right, is I'm trying to keep the wrapping around the back of the helmet form. Because if I don't, and it gets, like, really particularly bulky, then it's not going to be as aerodynamic as I would want the design to be. Also, I'm pretty sure if I don't really want to accidentally select that, so that can go. I'm pretty sure if I want this to be crisp, I'm just going to have to swallow my pride here and give it the crease. Okay, so the crease certainly seems to help. Because I do want to be fairly sharp at the back. And like once I've worked out all the kinks on like how the ears are supposed to look design-wise, I can then move on to making them easier to work with. Like in terms of aerodynamics, rather. So like the design from the front I think is pretty decent. Although I think these could stand to be probably about half the size. I forgot to apply the scale, whoopsies. In fact, yeah, even 0.7 would probably be better here. I'll finish editing these first and then I'll make a decision. So that's relatively good. I'll probably need to hide the annotations soon. Now, actually, you know what would probably be a good idea? I'm going to test this out to see if it will work. I'm going to add creases to the very edges of the bottom of the ears. And that might give me a better idea as to how the ears are going to be connected to the helmet. Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. gone quite far down, which I don't really like. Because the actual ears themselves, I'm just looking at this. The headset itself doesn't have any seam, but this one here has it directly above the visor. So I'm going to say probably leave some space. So say probably around about here is good. Alright, I'm gonna hide annotations for just a moment here. I wish there's a way to just keep that on permanently, just an annotation tab. There might be one actually. There isn't. Okay, that's strange. Regardless. Okay, so we've got that fitting into the helmet. Oh right, these are like all the way back. Okay, so the helmet itself, like the ears are purported to go all the way back, and like in these cases it probably does, but I don't think it looks as good. That's just a me problem, I think. And Likely's going to be pissed when they realize that I'm not basing this off of actual aerodynamics, but entirely based off of vibes. And they're probably going to be more pissed when it turns out this actually works. So that should hopefully get reasonably close. I need to scale this back out because I think I've lost the form. Yeah, right there. Because I still need to try and keep the form as best I can. I'm not vibing with the crease here. So I'll remove that for the time being. Yeah, I think it works better without the crease. This outer edge, though, is going to have to be creased, much to my annoyance. Okay, the ears are probably too far up. So first of all, if the thing would let me, move that. Base it on what? Like, it's just more to the fact that I know jack fuck all about physics in general. But somehow stuff that I do when it comes to this sort of thing tends to work out more often than not. So maybe scaling all of these in is probably the better solution for this. Also, Likely, I thought you were in the middle of driving. Pay attention to the road, would you please? Okay, now that I've... Kind of looks like a circle, no? Like, does this not look like... where is this? Move that down. Circle. Like, does it not look like one of these things? Just very vaguely. But it's so boring when the truck isn't overheating. I would rather have somebody who ignores me and continues driving than somebody who watches me and is about to get hit by something else oncoming. You know? Yeah, like, it just looks like circle-y is. So I'm definitely going to have to decrease the overall size of these things. That's probably a more acceptable amount. I got you on audio only. Huh, strange. I guess, whenever... Because I use the way that my chat works is that I have it, set on OBS side. And I don't have it set on Twitch side, so it must not show the audio only badge. Either that or the audio only badge is being overridden by VIP. Either or. I need to make sure this is applied scale. I wish there was an easier way to see the way that this is clipping into the helmet, but there isn't really a good way, unfortunately. I just have to take a real good and close look at it. Oh wait, I can literally just look from the inside. I'm dumb. I can literally just look from the inside the helmet to see the positioning. Because it still needs to clip in slightly anyway. Okay, so that should be form-fitting quite well. Now, time to sort out the shape of this ear. Although these do need to be pushed down a little bit. Sorry, chat. Test. Did you for real just clip me sneezing? Bruh. Actually, do those clips even show up? I actually have legitimately not checked, and now I'm curious. Have these clips actually shown up? Sort to... Sorted by... newest first, it does not seem that they show up on my end, which is probably a good thing. Because if they show up on my end, it probably means that they are publicly available. I'm not getting anything when exclamation mark clipping, to be honest. I think I know it was a thing on Nightbot, but I'm pretty sure I maybe disabled it if that's the case. But if you want, I can probably find a way to bring that feature back. Okay, now I'm going to try and relax all of these to smooth out the shape a bit. Okay, that one didn't work out quite as well, so I'm going to remove these and relax those. Now, I wonder what would happen if I relax these. Probably nothing good. Okay, actually that does kind of work a bit. I do need to move some of these out though. Mainly just that one there. Okay, and that should be good in terms of the ear shape. I just need to inset this and extrude it inwards. I should be good in terms of having the actual ear. I do need to possibly move this position here just to somewhere slightly better. Well, it does seem that actually no, the ears are flat in the original image. Okay, so that should be good. Now, I'm pretty sure if I wanted this to look halfway decent, I could crease these interior ones here, which would give a slightly better shape, but unfortunately it also does mess with the way that it looks, so maybe not the best idea. So I think like in terms of adapting to the original shape of the mesh, I think this is a pretty decent job. I'm going to add a couple more loop cuts in here just to make the shape overall a bit cleaner. What if I just selected all these right now and just... Yeah, that did roughly what I expected it would, honestly. So, relax that. That does not work out in my favor. I guess it's anything that's selected on the front of the face, I guess, is causing that problem. Okay, no. Okay, spacing those does not do me any favors either. I just wanted the geometry to be a bit cleaner. So move that up a bit further. Alt, no, not Alt Z, Alt S. Okay, so like the actual shape of the ear itself is fine. I just need to tweak the geometry just a smidge. Even if I relax it several times, it'll probably just mess stuff up. Is there any way to... Oh, actually, curving seems to... That actually flattened that one out, which is a shock to me. Can I Alt S? Actually, no, I can't. I can scale on the Z, though. And honestly, that might be my best option here. Yep. Let's scale this in the Z as well. And just shift this up, because I do have a way of getting this bottom section to work. And that's by coming underneath here, grabbing this geometry, and if I'm not mistaken, insetting this would... Okay, I am mistaken, apparently. It wouldn't be the first time. I can probably get away with beveling this, though. Although beveling does seem to have its own problems. So maybe I just want to keep this specific part of geometry the way that it was. Let's grab these ones right here and move them down. So that will get rid of any weird shading issues there. Other than that, I think the ears themselves are fine. So that'd be more or less what the original looks like. Although, is it going down far enough on the sides of the helmet? It does look like it. I'm gonna grab the slot here. I'm just tweaking the shape of the ear a little bit just to make it slightly more consistent. And this one here too. Alright, that should be good. Ah, heck, what happened there? In fact, this entire lot here could probably just stand to be subject to relax. Although, seems to have made that issue just slightly worse. Pesky, pesky, pesky. Seems that the issue is happening roughly around here. Oh yeah, actually I see where it's... How in the... I'm sorry? Did I fill in a face here? How did that happen? I only just need to move the slot here. Unless, actually, maybe moving this slot would be the smarter play. Proportional, maybe? Yeah, proportional is the better choice here. Alright, cool. Just double check to make sure this is in the correct spot. And this one here, just make sure that's even. What's happened here? There's some weird shading going on. I wonder if insetting this slot here is a good idea. Okay, yeah, that does make it cleaner. Right about there, maybe? Okay, yeah. Just dragging that down a bit more is helpful. And there. Okay, it's actually this one here that I want to move. Just trying to get a good profile on this is not the easiest. That's fine. The challenge is something that helps build more skills in Blender, so who am I to complain? Alright, so save a incremental of this one. And now the real question begins of how am I going to make this thing aerodynamic? So probably editing the shape is the easiest way. Now the question is, how do I edit a set of ears that is by default squared off? Because the first thought I had originally was grabbing this entire section here and just pulling it out. But that does provide some issue when it comes to design. It's like, even if I remove all of these, and move that out the Y. Yeah, it's just really strangely wonky. Like, the ears would either have to be pulled out from this section here, or I'd have to maybe turn them inwards, which I'll give the turning inwards a try first. Grab this one here and that. So, like, maybe just approaching from that way. The other thing I could do as well is check the aerodynamics of cat ears. Because, like, the first thing that one thinks of whenever they think of cats and aerodynamic ears is airplane ears. So, this sort of phenomenon here, where the ears are actually flat and turned back. Also, they've got the goddamn helmet here too. Oh, hey, look, the aerodynamics of the cat provided by iFunny. Also, there's 3D prints for this, for real? Fair enough, I guess. But yeah, like, whenever you think of aerodynamics and cat ears, you always think of the turned back ears. So, like, that is another option too, is have the ears turned back in this fashion. So, in fact, looking at this, I think the easier part to turn would be this outer ear section. But the problem is, like, there's only so far that you could push that until it doesn't look good from the side, right? Like, you can pull it all the way back, and, like, it kind of looks okay from the front. But the second you get out of orthographic view and go into perspective, it just doesn't look right. So I wonder if I can... I suppose share would work technically. So shift control alt S. Shift control alt S. Which would be share. Okay, what about spin? Spin probably, yeah, does not do what I'd hoped it would. Polybuild, rip region, shrink fatten, edge slide. Maybe edge slide might be my friend here. Problem is I don't want this here to be edge sliding. I just want this entire section here. Like, it's all well and good to say that the ears are done here, but it's not aerodynamic, which is the problem. So, aerodynamic. Like, I could rotate this entire section here. And then try sliding it back. The problem is rotating this enough to where you could move it back reasonably. So, like, this would involve just editing the entire mesh, essentially, to account for air drag, which is not an easy feat, I must admit. And of course, the inherent problem with this is with rotating this entire lot, the profile is immediately obliterated from the side. Like, from the front, I think it should still... Yeah, the front still looks vaguely fine, I think. But at this point, you're getting into territory of form versus function type of thing. You still want to keep the form, but the function is... Like, it depends on how much you want to prioritize the function, essentially. So, pulling it back. So, like, the other thing, too, is you don't want this here. So... grabbing this entire lot here, I'm actually going to smooth... I'm actually going to Control X to dissolve that. Did I not get the entire lot here? Oh, I must not have. So, Control X. So, the other option is too, whenever you're doing this, is you would want to paint the detail on as opposed to having it physically there. Which is not a solution that people want to hear. But it's... if you want to keep the form as much as possible, I think it's going to be a necessary evil at that point. Oh, something is gone wrong here. What has happened here, I wonder? Oh, a lot of stuff got munted there, actually. Whoops. Yeah, that would definitely mess with some stuff. I guess it must have gone messed around with when I was using proportional. Okay, so let's edit this now. And just get this to be a little bit more reasonable. Alright, so that's probably like the next best option would be to have the ears turned like that. And in fact, I might even bring the base of this forward even more. But at that moment, I'm just going to have to move those in just a smidge. Just enough so the form here can still cut through the wind fairly easily. In fact, maybe I want to edit this manually, perhaps? So roughly around about here. So keep that, and I think maybe... like, if I had to take a guess, this might be the best option. Like, if you wanted to keep the form as much as possible, I think having the ears turned to be more towards the side, to have... I wouldn't call it necessarily a wind scoop. That wouldn't be the correct term, would it? Yeah, that's not the correct term for it. But having what I imagine it would act like is you have the wind come through here and then have the wind deflect off this intersection here and have it slide off to the side is what I would want it to do, but I, again, am not an applied physicist. I don't know how wind resistance works in this case. I will also drag this back Actually, no. I won't drag that back. I'll drag this one back, though. The idea is to try and make this essentially cut through the air as much as possible. Okay, so maybe editing this to move across there more. Yeah, I think in terms of aerodynamics, this is probably the best you can get while still keeping the form to some degree. Just removing the main part, which is here. So the indentation on these, if you can remove that, I think would probably help immensely, because the wind's probably getting caught up in this. So removing that, and then dragging this off to the side so the wind can go either side of what is essentially a break point, I think will probably work. I want to say that it does, but without actual aerodynamics testing, it seems unlikely they'll be able to figure it out. Actually, somebody would have had to have made a wind tunnel simulation Blender, right? Wind simulation Blender. Okay, so there is a laminar flow simulation tutorial which I'd have to build off stream, because I don't think I can go through an entire I don't think I can go through an entire training course in the span of like 20 minutes. I think that's probably a poor idea. I mean, I could technically do it, but it would probably just drive me insane and the rest of the chat would get completely and utterly confused. So, yeah, like, I think maybe this would be my solution to the problem. I'm gonna give this some shading too while I'm here. No reason not to. So, this is a pretty decently bright yellow. Helmet color. Give this. I can just color pick off of one of these. I think, yeah, it should be a good color. And then the visor itself, which is a black visor. It's actually more accurately like a really dark grey. Now, the roughness will probably be all the way down. What is... It'll be interesting to know what the index reflection for a motorcycle visor would be. I imagine it would be relatively close to glass. I guess it's like the question of what is a motorcycle visor made out of? Motorcycle visor... material. So looking at this... Oh, there's augmented reality visors for motorcycle helmets? That's pretty neat, actually. polycarbonate. Yeah, so it would seem to be polycarbonate. Do I have an IOR for polycarbonate? Because if not, I'm going to have to take my best guess at it. P. Polycarbonate. Oh, I do actually. Polycarbonate is a 1.584. Okay, cool. 1.584. And the alpha, because this thing is still going to be see-through, mind you, is probably going to be, I want to say 0.75. Seems like an accurate estimation of, yeah, right. And this is a relatively smooth plastic material. So we'll do 0.4, I think, for this. So relatively smooth plastic material, probably a little bit lighter than this, though. Bring down the sat, bring up that a little bit. And I think I might want to switch the hue up just a bit here to be just a more obvious yellow. Then this. So grab all of this here. So these two will likely be a blackened color. Just looking at the reference, yeah, that does seem to be correct. I could actually add some more detail to the helmet with these here. And I might later on, but I'm more interested in just getting the aerodynamics down and then just trying to match the original as best I can. So a lot of these seem to be decals too, which I might have to hand draw. And if that's the case, that might be a bit of a pest. But it's not the end of the earth. It's just slightly annoying. Now, for that, I'm assuming it's... Okay, yeah, it's also plastic, but it's also a rougher plastic. So I'm going to say 0.75 for this one. Now, that is interesting. Why is it... Is there just like a tiny... thing here where I just didn't get the... Okay, I must just not have gone the entire way around. That is fine by me. So I got that. I do need to get the colouring for the helmet itself down. So it's a very blue-grey colour. So... it's actually called Blue Steel, I believe. So, grab that colouring, and it is attached to the back of the ears and down the back of the visor. So, probably... And it does stop probably around about here. And, like, I can just edit this later. Actually, no, these ones are not the correct position, nor are those ones. Okay, so that should be, yeah, fairly close. Remembering I can probably just texture paint this later, but it just gives me a better idea of what the helmet's going to look like at the end. Now, for the ears, we want 2 slots at least, and we're going to assign yellow helmet. And then this one is going to be blue steel. Those, and I think that's roughly correct. Sign those. Oh, I must have missed something on that one. Does this entire back section here need to be? That's a little bit irritating. Oh, there's like, I'm dumb. I forgot about the tiny itty little bit here that still needs to be colored in. I mean, supporting loops are good, but good lord, can it be a little bit confusing when you're just trying to get something to work. Also, does this design remind anyone else of Anka from Animal Crossing? Just like very vaguely? Because it kind of does for me. So if I... Okay, maybe the colouring goes a bit further along than I expected. That's okay. Now the internals of the ear is pretty easy. I can just get the black helmet here and just assign that. So that would keep the general design while hopefully decreasing drag on the ears. It kind of looks a little bit strange, but if you're looking for aerodynamics, it's probably about as good as you can get. Okay, I want to edit this helmet a bit here. I want to cut out a slot for the visor, and I also want to model the inside of this just a little bit. So what I can do is I can actually just remove this now. And I can remove the bottom, I think. So, actually, before I do that, I'm going to save in a and incremental before I go backing about with the shape of this thing. So if I delete the faces, what I can do is I can add a solidify. I'm going to add it above the subdiv. I'm going to have this be internal. Now the problem here is that it's going to try and solidify this section here, which I don't really want it to do. So if I delete those, okay, yeah, that works slightly better. And likely is spinning in my chat. Why are you spinning in my chat? I have so many questions, I'm afraid that not all of them are going to be answered. So now, all I have to do is mainly just... Made it home? Nice. So this one here I can get rid of. Now the real thing here is going to be trying to get this to work properly, which is what the knife tool is for. Now the problem with the knife tool, and I don't know why this is a thing, but it is that I cannot go into like side view or front view. I have to basically freehand this. Truck was screaming at me as I was parking the trailer. Yeah, that sounds about right for a truck, honestly. And then cut down to there. Cut across here. And yeah. So now I should be able to just remove this lot. And this lot. And that would give me, yeah, the visor. Now the question is, what is the average thickness of a motorcycle helmet? Like the actual internal thickness of a motorcycle helmet. Hey, Beatrice has 250k miles and has never given me a legit problem. Oh, so Beatrice is just complaining. I mean, fair enough. Like, if I was going that many miles, I'd probably be complaining when parking too. Okay, I want to subdivide this. She may be low on coolant or oil. Maybe you should go and check, or both. Yeah, I'd probably check that. Yeah, it is J, actually. And Control X, both of those. I want to try and keep this as quadded as possible. I can't, it's too hot, and wiper fluid. Well then, like, relax, chill out for a bit until Beatrice has finished the cooling off, and then maybe go and check. No, I don't have anything else selected. Why is that doing? Oh, that's just the actual thing. Eh? Why is there just random geometry popping up? That shouldn't be like that. In fact, I'm even just going to merge these ones down. Okay, so that should keep the quadded geometry like I would want it. Do not need that. Okay, motorcycle helmet thickness. But then she won't be overheating and therefore don't need to fix anything. Time to have a look through these. There's got to be some reasonable. Okay, interior lining thickness. This probably won't be accurate to... Wait a minute, maybe we should check to make sure this is actually designed for a motorcycle first before... Okay, yeah, they are motorcycle helmets. Because, like, I thought for a second there, I was just looking down here, and I was just like, maybe I should check to make sure this is fitting for a motorcycle helmet and not, like, a football helmet or something. Just like a leaky roof, it leaks when it rains, but it's too wet out to fix it, and when it's dry, there's no problem. Yeah, it's no problem until the roof caves in from all the wood rot from said water, though. Maybe you should go ahead and check it once it cools off. So, it seems that... So I'm basing this around a medium sizing. So the standard sizing for this seems to be a 10mm interior lining thickness. And I'm assuming that the interior lining thickness does tend to be... Okay, so I'm looking at this specifically, the impact absorbing liner. The actual pads themselves, like, I can easily get that information later. It's just this here I'm looking for. And 10 millimeters, while that doesn't sound like a lot, it does kind of track. It does come with an optional sizing of 12, though. So, 10 millimeters. Yeah, that actually seems about reasonable. And then I can apply this. Actually, I need to be out of edit mode for that. Actually, because I'm looking at the overall geometry of this, and I just don't want it showing past the visor. It does seem to have shrunken this a bit, considering the fact that I did remove some geometry. So I'm going to Alt-S this out. Yes, I just don't want that one there clipping through. In fact, I think I might even need an extra loop cut here. Just purely for the fact that this is not going to work properly otherwise. Yes. Make sure that I hold that down. Actually, this does need to be further in because obviously the visor is going to flip up over this section of the helmet. So I do want it to be inwards, I just don't want it to be super inwards. Posted as size and blended general. Okay, sure. But also, somebody has been messaging me in the interim. What have you posted here for me? Let's open this on page here, and you said this was a sizing, right? Yeah, that does seem to be about correct. Okay, cool. Thank you for that. So that is actually smaller than I was expecting it to be. I'm going to set this to be 0.0. That would be probably about 5 millimeters, right? Oh wait, I accidentally put in the merge. Oopsies. That is supposed to be point. Actually, to be fair, I think I did in the wrong thing from the get-go. Okay, there we go. So that's 10 millimeters, and likely's ones seem to be 2, which doesn't feel right, so I'm going to probably stick to 5 millimeters. Maybe 7, actually. 7. Yeah, that feels a bit better. And now I can accurately scale this back in. Because again, I want the helmet to actually be able to flip up over the rest of the helmet. It's 0.2 inch, which is equal to, yeah. Alright, I'll set it back to 5 millimeters then. I did see the 0.2, which made me automatically think 0.5 millimeters. So at least my automatic translation, at least when I'm not focusing on the conversion itself, seems to be correct. I don't know how my brain manages that, but apparently it does. I don't remember installing that software, to be honest. Okay, now time to move this downwards a bit. Okay, so the rest of this seems to be good in terms of gaps. I will raise this one up a bit. This one down, this one back up. And I think the actual spacing on that is fine. So now, that is partially clipped into the helmet. And I think I want to, instead of trying to form the helmet around the visor, it would probably be easier just form the visor around the helmet. You know, the thing a logical person would do. The bottom of the helmet, I believe, is actually supposed to... Looking at this... Okay, yeah, there's like a seam in between the visor itself and the helmet. There's like... It clips down over that, like it's slotted in there, but then there's a bit of seam that goes up behind it. So that should be fine. I just would have to apply the solidify, I think, for that to work. So, at the very least, I can scale this out until it's fitting relatively decently. And then I'll use these ones until they scale in the way that I like. Okay. I think I've still kept the form fairly reasonably. Although this little bit here could just leave a little bit more to be desired. Actually, no, that's fine. Alrighty, yeah, I think it's probably about time for me to head off the stream. That's a pretty decent job, though, in terms of making a motorcycle helmet. And how does this look in shading? A little bit better, to be honest. It certainly looks better with the helmet actually having some internal volume. So, save that. That's a nice helmet. I'm glad you like it, likely. Alright, so I'll end off the stream there. I believe I can just raid the same person as yesterday, unless there is somebody else. Yeah, I think I will, actually. Yeah, there's like one other guy who's live, and I know for a fact he doesn't have raids on at the moment. So, I shall end off like that. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to get fairly close to having a complete helmet done. And then likely can throw me into the gauntlet of aerodynamics and see how well it goes. Alright, I shall see you all tomorrow.